What's funny is when I was a younger man, quite a bit younger, I really did want to be up in front of groups preaching the gospel because I was so radically saved myself. So when that happened, my goal in life really was understanding God's love for me and then sharing it with other people. And I'd say to a large degree that hasn't changed, although it's changed in me quite a bit over 20 years. But what's funny is, as I talk about guidance, in the early years as a Christian, guidance was maybe an easier thing. It wasn't easy, but God was pretty close to dropping things on me. I was a hard sell on everything, so I think last time I was up here, for those that were here, I talked about a gas can that I happened upon that showed me after I had run out of gas that God loved me. But I had incidents like that all through my early Christian life in my first 5 years. I had a sense that God was calling me to full-time ministry. And so, but I resisted that. I didn't want to be in full-time ministry. I don't have anybody like that in my family. I had no desire for that. And so a guy turned around in church one time and he hands me $500 and says, this is for you to, it's a longer story than that, but this is for you to go get trained in full-time ministry. That kind of thing happened to me a lot, and it was early guidance to tell me, okay, this is the way to go. A lot of times I'd read something in the Bible. Our brother shared that, you'd open the Bible to a certain passage and it would answer a question I'd be asking directly. Later on, even recently in our early marriage, we were trying to buy a house in a space of time where I didn't, we just didn't have any money. I had just taken a huge cut in pay, but we had this sense that God wanted us in Pasadena. I was in full-time ministry at the time, so we really had no money. And the lady that I had rented with for 7 years turned around, gave me all 7 years of rent back, $20,000, which got us into the home that we owned at the time. So God has been big on guidance, big on me personally. But when you talk about guidance, sometimes you hear somebody share that, and I do too. I go, well, why not me? Why? I can tell you also, I've had some of the biggest heartbreaks when it comes to guidance. Jane and I thought for sure we're called to be missionaries. And one by one, pursuing that goal full out, it fell apart. Even when we're on the eve of leaving, it fell apart. When we were going to go to China, it fell apart. When we were going to go to Australia, it fell apart. It all kind of dissipated. So I find guidance, Joseph last week was talking about guidance on a big scale. I find guidance to be one of the more complicated things. It seems simple, hear from God and do, and there is a simplicity to it. There's a call on your life, there's a destiny over it, hear what God's doing, and do it. Okay, so there's an action piece to it, there's a hearing piece to it, but it's not simple. Yesterday, as I was being deterred from doing a message on guidance, and by deterred, I mean, boy, oh boy, I get in my car, the flea shampoo's not working on the house. As we bombed it for our new dog, we take the dog to go get shampooed. Shampoo place doesn't open. I forget my computer laptop, so I have to go back home, get rid of the kids so I have a little bit of time, go back. Forgot my Bible. It's kind of important to have a Bible when you're speaking at church. Forgot my Bible, had to go back. So finally, I get myself to a place called the Coffee Bean near our house, away from my kids, which is necessary. And I sit down and I struggle for about an hour. And, lo and behold, I meet somebody there. And he sits down next to me, sees my Bible, which I had gone and retrieved. And he starts talking to me. And when I talk, you could see the word walls was in this talk, okay? The word walls. I have gotten very good. I'm proficient at creating walls around me because I deal with people all the time. So I have an on-off switch. And unlike Joseph, who's really good at talking to people, and when I'm out surfing with Mark, so is he. I'm not. In fact, I'm really good at not talking to people because I don't want to often. So actually, Scott Batch, he's sitting in the back row right there. Give a wave, Scott. He's also right up here, okay? And this is just a couple. I asked him if I could take some slides from his life. when we're talking about guidance, you cannot take the God factor out of guidance. Okay, if you're sitting here in a church, you at least have an interest in the God factor. So Scott and I start talking, and I'm getting ready to shut him down because I'm not even half done with this sermon. And he starts talking about his life, and I get super interested. And I start thinking about guidance as he's talking about how God has worked in his life in guidance. And really what he did, probably more like Mark and Joseph, is he was engaging me in a conversation because my Bible was sitting out there, and he was just kind of, well, what's up? Well, we get to talking, and just a little bit about his life, okay? He works for the military, at least some. He's had a surf business before down in San Diego. If they tell me if I'm wrong in anything, I'll probably mess up details. He has a dream, and someday he'll be in Puerto Rico in the same surf type business. He's got a heart. He sees himself as a missionary to the military. And he's moving around a lot all over the world. In fact, as he described what he did, I couldn't even understand it, to tell you the truth. Well, then, come to find out he was headed up to Torrance, and he had just pulled off the road so he could get a cup of coffee. And so he was trying to stay awake. So I said, well, I go to a church in Torrance. You're going to be up there tomorrow. Yes, I am. Okay, so I said, well, why don't you come? I can't remember the street it's on because I don't live up there, but it's called Awakenings. Well, I find out from Joseph this morning when I walk in the door that actually Scott's party he was coming to was here at Awakenings last night. Okay, and so I had invited him to church just thinking, oh, you're going to be up in the area. And lo and behold, he was actually coming right to this place to talk to Joseph about, is this guy for real or is he some wacko that's in a coffee shop? Okay, guidance at the core of what it is, if you're looking for your life destiny, at the core of guidance is God. And that, between Scott and I, between Batch and I, that was a divine encounter. You can't take it any other way. There's no reason why he should have pulled off that particular exit. And I got to tell you, Coffee Bean's not right off the exit. And there's a Starbucks right next to it. So for that reason, a wall for me that would have shut him down was opened up for whatever God had or has or will have in store. So when you're talking about guidance, you have to put that God factor in it. There's not a formula. There may be principles, but that God factor is what kind of weaves the highway that you might not understand what's going on. And it doesn't happen the same way every time. Okay, talk a little bit about the walls in Jerusalem. Nehemiah is what Joseph started on last week. And Nehemiah is a book in the Bible. It's one of the last historical books of the Bible. And it's basically a history of Israel in their plight or walk with God.